Hello, this is Z, and welcome to Healing with Z, a space of intentional living where we find natural ways to take care of the mind, the body, and the soul. So, today I wanted to talk to you guys about how I went from being a 20-year vegan to now eating a ketogenic diet. So, for 20 years, I thought that I was being healthy. I associated veganism with health, and so I wasn't always vegan, right? I grew up on a farm in the Western Cape of South Africa. I then moved to the United States after turning 21, and I just could not understand what I was eating when I was eating the meat here. And then the dairy also just wasn't sitting well with me. So I was like, okay, we're gonna stop eating all of this stuff and we're just gonna eat fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds forever, right? And so that's what I did up until I got sick on January 27th, 2025. I got sick. I had my very first seizure, and I didn't know it was a seizure because I just fainted and I was also feverish. And I had just came off a 67-hour dry fast, and I refueled with a big bowl of a vegan food. And so I didn't think that it was anything but, maybe I was overworked, under stress. And so I thought it was just a combination of things. It wasn't until February 21st when my husband found me seizing that we were like, oh crap, something is majorly wrong. So I went to the doctor. The doctor recommended the neurologist that I'm seeing now. And so I've been seeing this guy now since March. So March, I went for the appointment and I was prescribed Keppra. And I was like, wait a second. Are we not going to try to figure out why this is happening? Because I told him, this happened right after I came off a 67-hour fast and I refueled with a vegan bowl. So whatever this is, it is metabolic or, blood sugar levels related. It has to be, because I have no history of this and I've never had a seizure in my life. And I don't have a family history of seizures. And I was 40 when all of this started. And so the doctor was like, no, you have epilepsy here, is the medication. This is how we treat this. I was like, okay, well, can I get an alternative way of treating this? Can we try CBD oil first and see? And I told him, I don't take medication. I've never taken medication in my adult life. Now, whatever my mom did back then when I was a child, I don't remember. I know that she did give me some medication when I was sick, but even then I had to be sick, like chicken pox sick, like that. Because any other sick is like rub Vicks on my chest, rub Vicks on my back, put a blanket and let me go to sleep. Or, put the Vicks in the boiling water, put the water in a bucket, put the bucket in the middle of the room, get the blanket, put the blanket over me, over the bucket, and have me sweat it out. That's how my mom used to, cure me when I'm sick of some flu or fever or whatever, right? And so medicine was never really a thing unless I had something major, like what I just described, like the chicken pox, because I had chicken pox. And then I had to go to the doctor and I was given medication and I took it and it helped and the chicken pox went away. So the doctor was like, okay, no, this is what we do. The CBD that you want to take, we don't know much about that. And you don't know which strain you're going to get, and it might make things worse. No, we're not going to do CBD. Take this pill. And I was like, no, I don't want to take this pill. I'll try CBD. And so I live in Austin. In Austin, you can find anything. And so I went to the CBD store and I got me a bottle. And because the seizures were happening mostly at night, I would take it at night right before I go to sleep. But then I found out that no, I have these weird dreams when I take the CBD oil, and it didn't make me feel good. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do it. Let's just try something else. So I then went on a quest. I started doing a lot of reading and try to understand my body and, everything based on the fact that I'm vegan. Now I'm vegan, I'm a CrossFitter, I'm a runner, I don't eat junk. I don't drink anything but water. So why is this happening? And so I was like, okay, we're going to have to figure this out. So March, I went to go see him. April, I had a seizure while I was driving back from the gym. May, I had something that I believe was a seizure, but I cannot quite explain it. I didn't lose consciousness because most of my seizures, I lose consciousness. May, I didn't lose consciousness, but I had I heard some voices and I was trying to communicate something, but my husband and my kid were not understanding. It sounded like gibberish coming out of my mouth. So that was some type of seizure. We don't know what it was, but it was something. That was in May 11th. June, I had another seizure in my sleep. And so I woke up and I was like, okay, let's try keto. Let's see, because I read that keto helps for this type of illness. Let me see if maybe this vegan diet is no longer working for me. Let me try keto. I went on the keto diet. I first introduced eggs and dairy into my diet. And if I tell you that it was a struggle the first few weeks, it was a struggle. I could not use the bathroom. Now, being on a vegan diet was like easy for me to use the bathroom. I would eat my big bowl of, quinoa, chickpeas, avocado, veggie sausages, and broccoli or Brussels sprouts or whatever, or you sweet potato, whatever, And like 30 minutes later, I need to go to the bathroom and everything just works, right? And then I went on to this keto. You eat boiled eggs. If it's not boiled, it's fried. And then when it's fried, I fried it in ghee butter. I make sure I use ghee butter. I stop using vegetable oils. And I would still have sugar, like in chocolate, because, I was, one of those people that really like sugary things. And so on this keto diet, man, my face broke out in pimples like I was a teenager going through puberty. And I was like, okay, what is going on? And I couldn't go to the bathroom. I would go there and I would feel like I need to go because it's been 3 days since I've been in the bathroom. And I would sit there for 45 minutes pushing and nothing happens, I called my neighbor. I was like, what do you guys do? You meat eaters, like, how do you get past of this stage? It was like, well, there's a tea that we drink sometimes when we want things to move along. Here is it. Try it and see if it's going to work for you. I had the tea and I read up on the tea and they were like, yeah, you can have it once in a while, not regularly because it messes up with your gut lining. So I was like, okay, I need something natural. I don't need something that is going to mess me up on top of this mess that I'm trying to fix. So I decided that, you know what? It's the dairy, because I remembered that back before I became vegan, I had problems with dairy. So I was like, okay, instead of having cow yogurt, I would have sheep yogurt. And so when I switched over to sheep yogurt, I was able then to be regular to go to the bathroom, right? And so I would have the sheep yogurt and it would be plain, unsweetened, full fat sheep yogurt. And let me tell you, the first few weeks of having this yogurt thing, I was like, oh my God, this is so gross. Who buys unsweetened stuff? It is disgusting. But now, it's my favorite meal when I go on my walks. I'm like, oh, I'm ready to get home. When is it going to be 10 o'clock so I can have my sheep yogurt, So now what I do is at 10 o'clock, because that's when I first eat. My first meal is at 10. I have 2 meals a day. My first meal is at 10 o'clock. It's the sheep yogurt. And then I would put in a cup of cream and I would put in a cup of blueberries. Blueberries is the only fruit that I eat. And before blueberries, I used to love pineapple. Pineapple was my fruit of choice. But because of the sugar content in pineapple, I was like, I cannot have it. I will just have blueberries instead. And I heard, I read somewhere that blueberries was a very good brain food. So I was like, okay, blueberries it is. So blueberries, the yogurt, the plain unsweetened full fat yogurt, a tablespoon of MCT oil, a half a cup of cream, and a mixture of nuts and ground ginger. The mixture of nuts is Brazil, pecans, macadamia, almonds, And then I have pumpkin seed. I mix it all together, put it in the yogurt, mix it, eat it. That's my first meal. That meal is so nutritious that I am not hungry for the rest of the day. At around 2:30, 3 o'clock, I'm reminded like, hey, you need to eat something because you don't want to be eating at like 7 o'clock when you do get hungry. So I force myself to make something to eat around 2:30, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock-ish is when I have my second meal. Second meal, 2 hard-boiled eggs, 1 beef patty fried in ghee butter, 1 avocado. I have an avocado every day. 1 avocado, and then I would have sauteed onions in the ghee butter and cauliflower. That is my second meal of the day. Then I'm done eating. And at night, for my bedtime snack would be my tea, rooibos tea, a cup of rooibos tea, no sugar. And I put in a pouch of magnesium. And that, I call it a night, 9:30, go to sleep, wake up at 5, go to the gym, and do it all over again. So that is what I do every day. It's like I eat the same thing, what I just mentioned, every day. Same thing. I haven't had a seizure since October 1st. The last time I took a pill was September 30th. And I sleep great. My mind is clear. I don't have those depressed feelings that I had when I was on Keppra. I never took the antidepressants and the sleeping medication that they gave me in July when I first started taking Keppra, because I started taking Keppra July 2nd after I had that July 1st seizure where my daughter called 911. That's when I gave in. I'm like, okay, let's try Keppra. Let's see if it's going to work. Let's see if it's going to stop the seizures, because at this point, the seizures were getting worse. And I didn't like the fact that now they were happening midday and my kids have witnessed me go through this. Like, that was the reason. That was the only reason why I decided to go on Keppra, was because my kids witnessed me have a seizure and one of them had to call 911. And to me, that was like an absolute no-no. As like uncomfortable as I am with prescription medication, I was like, you know what? Let me give it a try. But then I gave it a try, and let me tell you, that same week, I couldn't sleep. I had depressed feelings. I had to go back to the doctor and be like, what is going on? Why is this happening? And you know what the solution was? Here are more pills for you. Take these. So they prescribed me a medication for my insomnia and medication for the depressed feelings. And I was like, wait a second. We went from Keppra now to antidepressants and sleeping meds in a space of 1 month. Like, how is this even possible? And so I never took those medications because something just did not feel right with all of that. You know, it just didn't feel right that they were so quick to give me medication without understanding why this was happening to me. Even after I said, hey, I think this is diet related. This has to do with my blood sugar levels or my metabolism. Something is not right, because the fact is, I don't have a history of this. I don't have a family history of this. I am 41 now, but when it started, I was 40. And I'm like, no, it had to be triggered by something. It is just not a random occurrence, you know? And so I was like, okay, if you guys are not going to help me figure this out, then I'm just going to have to figure this out on my own. And so that's what I did. I decided to figure this out on my own. And so I haven't had a pill since September 30th. And I haven't had a grand mal seizure since October 1st. Now today it is November 11th. We will see what happens. Normally my seizures, well, not my seizures, the seizures happens once a month. For the month of November, because the last one was October 1st, I was expecting something to happen November 1st, November 5th, you know, today is November 11th and still nothing. But we're not getting excited because, you know, it's still early days. we will see what happens, but I will keep you guys posted. I will let you know how I do. I will make another video next week and I will explain to you guys, my progress, how I feel. Right now, I feel great. I am back to being present for my children. I am happy. I am glowing. Look at the skin. There's no pimples. I am just, I feel great. And the keto diet, it was rough in the beginning, but my system got used to it and now we are flourishing. So thank you for being here. We will talk again. I promise I will be honest with you with everything. If I have another seizure, I'm going to come back here and be like, hey, it happened again. I don't know why, but right now we're still in the clear. So maybe this diet change is working, maybe it's not. I don't know. It is something that still remains to be seen. But my promise to myself was I am going to try everything in my power to help myself figure out whatever it is that is going on, because this is something that I can figure out. I believe, because it is something that I wasn't born with. If I was born with this, then yes, I would blindly follow the doctors and, take whatever they say I should take. But this thing happened at age 40. And like something happened before it happened, like I can pinpoint like, okay, this is what happened that weekend and this is then what happened.